super happy to get you. I know that you're busy as everyone else is, but you're a particularly busy man. So you are obviously monetizing personal brands for content creation. You do a ton of things, actually. You're also a very well-renowned singer, which I must admit, the first time that I saw that you're also doing singing, I was just like, holy shit, this is surprising. So it's just you're kind of like this jack of all trades, but master of all of them at the same time.
That's right. Competence is important in all spheres of life.
It's very, very true. So we just stop that there. So when it comes to your music, because that, like, really, when I say that shocks me, I was just like, holy shit, wow. And not only is he just creating music, but it's like, shit, this is some good music, and in so many different styles. I mean, when did you start?
I would say I've always been an artistic person. So, for instance, when I was in like kindergarten, which I'm not sure what you guys call it on that side of the world, but yeah, so basically like 4 to 5 years old, the teacher would hand out an assignment, like write a little story and draw a picture. And I would only draw the picture and not write the story. So I was always like artsy. My family, within my grandparents' generation, they all played instruments. They were all in the Jamaican orchestra, a good chunk of them. So music's kind of in my blood. I started taking music seriously at about 14, 15 years old. I started to learn how to produce on the computer, all digitally. I had taken piano lessons from about the age of 6 to the age of like 10, 11-ish. I hated piano, absolutely hated piano. I could not wait to quit. I gave my mother so much trouble about it. And she was like, okay, you can quit after what, 6-ish years of doing piano. And after I quit piano, I hated doing piano so much that I literally like erased it out of my brain. So I almost, when I picked up music again, I had to like reteach myself. So from like scratch. So I retaught myself music, taught myself how to play piano again, because like I said, it was deleted out of the hard drive. It was gone. Right. So yeah, at about 15, I started producing beats and stuff like that. And then I had all this production, and I was like, well, people aren't going to say what I want them to say on these things. And I have things to say. So I'm going to start writing. And I started writing lyrics and started rapping originally, and then started singing. And I've been in the music industry for a long time. That's how I originally made my money. That's where a lot of my skills as just like a person come from. Yeah, music's always been a part of my life, and it's going to continue to be a part of my life. It's an incredible passion for me.
Yeah, it's cool, man, because it's like, I think I looked the other day, and man, you've got like well over 1 million streams on Spotify. I mean, when you first hit that, I mean, that must have been killer, because, and when it comes to obviously your mom as well, just sort of drilling that kind of, I guess you can call it self-discipline, because you're one of, if not the most disciplined men that I know. Like, when you're doing shit, and that's it. There's no ifs, no buts, there's no distractions. I know that even if you've got your friends around, if you've got, your exes or girlfriends around or whatever it might be, you don't care. You just focus on that. And because one thing that I do know about you is that both of your parents are immigrants from Jamaica, right?
Yep.
So the culture wise, did you get a lot of the sort of the good mix between the US culture, the Canadian culture, and the Jamaican culture as well? Because that's super interesting, because to become someone like you, there's so many different facets to you,
Yeah, so definitely parenting is very heavy into influencing anybody's life and the decisions that they make in life, right? So my parents were just very much drilled discipline into me. So when I was very young, I was in karate for a little while, and that's discipline. Then I did taekwondo, which is discipline. Martial arts are very disciplined. And then my mother, one of her goals was basically to make sure I did well in school, and she did everything possible to make me do well in school. But it still required discipline, right? There were times I had to do my homework and stuff. I wasn't outside playing ball with all the other kids. And it just kind of developed a a strong level of commitment and discipline within me. And I understand that discipline actually equals freedom. People think discipline is like a stringent, hard, difficult thing, which it can be, but you have to be disciplined throughout your life. Otherwise, you will lack freedom later on in your life. If you're disciplined about your health when you're young, you're not going to suffer the same health problems when you're old.
Yep.
Right? If you're disciplined about money when you're younger, you're not going to suffer the same money problems when you're older. So really, discipline equals freedom. So when I look at myself and I say I have to do something, I have to get it done so that my future self thanks me for it. You know what I mean?
And because, you know, it's fascinating to me because you come from not necessarily a poor background, but I know that you had, you know, some financial troubles when you were growing up as a kid.
Yeah,
but I mean,
definitely.
to come from that, I mean, what was childhood kind of like for you?
So I come from a very unique perspective in terms of growing up, because I lived in a middle class neighborhood, but all my friends were from poor neighborhoods, and that's where I was all the time. And the house I lived in, it was, my grandmother had got it in like the 70s when property was like way cheap, right?
Yeah.
And then they made bad financial decisions around the house and all that type of stuff. My mother ended up taking it on, and basically my mother struggled every month for us to live there, basically. So now that I'm older, I realize how much she like struggled. I don't even know how she got Christmas presents for us, to be honest with you. So probably borrowed on credit or something, right? So when I was younger, I didn't realize how much my mother was struggling until I was in high school. When I hit high school, just 1 month, power was off, no power, no heat. Come warm up by the stove. It's cold, middle of winter in Canada. Yeah, you got to warm up by the stove. There's no power, no heat, less food, no Christmas presents, right? So you're like, oh shoot, life's it's kind of rough, right? And then the other perspective was I was growing up with a lot of kids who actually like were poor. They were my friends. So I was always in like the hood, right?
Yep.
And it taught me a lot of skills, but lucky for me, I didn't have to live there, right? So I was a little sheltered from some of it, but I have all type of stories, man.
Yeah.
When I got older, I actually moved out at like 17 years old. So moved out pretty early. And then you realize life is difficult. And then you realize, wow, like I'm actually freaking broke. I need to figure something out, you know?
Like this money thing, shit. Yeah. It's real. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. And then you kind of just figure out a way. You try different things and different things. I mean, what was like the first thing when you realize just as you move out, and then you're like, oh shit, man, I really want to do all of this cool stuff, but I'm broke as fucking anything right now.
Yeah.
Like what was your first thing when you were like, or the first memory where you were sat there and you could just remember that you were like, no, this shit for me, I need a different life. I need a different life.
Lots of times, actually, plenty times. So like when I first moved out, I was like 17. I moved out with my girlfriend at the time. And it was just rough sometimes. It's like, oh yeah, I want to go out for dinner. I don't have dinner money. How are you this smart and this handsome and don't have any money to take your girl out for dinner? Like, you know, it just doesn't make any sense, right? So yeah, that was a first instance I can remember, but it's been a bunch of times where I've just been like broke and been like, yo, I need to get money. Why don't I have any money? You know, it's been a crazy journey of figuring out how to get paid, but it builds a lot of character, right? I've worked a bunch of different jobs. I worked at the aquarium, I worked construction, I worked at Chipotle, I worked so many different jobs, and they teach you so much things. I think every man should work some like regular jobs at some point in their life because it teaches you so much. You need to go through it to appreciate when you're actually like making good amounts of money, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%, brother. And you know, when it comes down into like the biggest takeaways, the biggest lessons that you had from, you know, those quote unquote normal jobs that, I mean, you probably think sometimes kind of like I do, where you just kind of, now you look back and you look at normal jobs and you're like, damn, man, these people, they're fucking serious, hard people, and they're hard working. And damn, like I look at these guys and that are just going in construction, or, you know, they're going down the drains, or they're doing X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, shit, dude, these guys are animals. Like, I know I'm hardworking, but god damn. And I mean, what was like the biggest kind of takeaway for you when from all of those jobs and going, you know, from one thing to another thing and to another thing? What would you say would be the biggest, like one single thing that you kind of think now and you're like, damn, I'm so fucking happy that I did that because I learned now how to be X.
Right. I would say the biggest takeaway I had from working quote unquote regular jobs is to like know your role. Yep. Right. And it's not in every situation that you're going to be the boss. There's situations in my life where I'm the boss, right? I'm the head honcho. And there's other situations in my life where I'm not the boss, but I'm still providing a certain type of value, which is beneficial for everybody, right? Yep. So a big thing a lot of the time that happens, especially when you're working with other people and groups of people, is ego, right? So sometimes you got to put your ego to the side and know your role, right? Yep. So I think regular jobs taught me that in a big way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things, because, you know, you, especially within our friend group, I mean, you're probably one of the most helpful guys that I know in our friend group. I mean, you spend a ridiculous amount of time helping them in X way or Y or Z. And, you know, a lot of the guys, certainly in our group, you know, they look up to you and they see you as someone who's, as you said, right from the beginning, someone that's capable, right? I mean, do you see those people who are sort of, let's say that they consider themselves on a lower level than you, even though people like you and I know how we see the world, we see it kind of just as flat. And then there's just the people that are way above us that we're trying to just emulate and, you know, become more like. Right. But for those people that are sort of on a lower tier, let's say, what would you say to them that they could do just instantaneously to be able to be like, right, do you know what? I'm so fucking tired of this shit. And they're there and exhausted from doing the same thing again and again and again. What would you say would be the number one piece of advice that you could give to those guys?
Well, I would say that it once again boils down to discipline. And at first, while you're working those type of jobs, you're gonna be tired. Like, for instance, I used to work construction, right? You finish a day of construction, you're freaking tired, but there's still like 16 more hours in the day.
Yeah.
So 8 of them you might be sleeping, right? 8 of them you're working. There's 8 more hours that you have something to do, right? So while I was working all these other jobs, right, I was still learning how to engineer, mix, master in terms of music, which is a skill that could get me paid, right? Yep. So later on, while I was working my job at the aquarium, I had some mixing and mastering clients in terms of music. So I was building up a side hustle at the same time. The thing is, people are working hard, but at the same time, people are not working hard enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you gotta, if you really want it bad, you have to try like really, really hard. And I think of the quote, God helps those who help themselves. You have to try very, very hard to get like any sort of favor in this world in terms of like money and the things you want. You really have to try. I really tried all the time. You know what I mean? So that's paying off now. But enough people, they just don't try hard enough. They need to try harder. It sounds a little shallow. It sounds a little shallow, but that's the easiest I can break it down to. You know, there's 8 more hours in the day for you to do something. What are you doing with them?
Yeah, it's like I had this conversation, man, so many times with so many different guys. And well, not even just guys. I had this conversation all day, pretty much every day with everyone. And it's like, okay, if they come to us and they're like, right, okay, so guys, you know, Michael, Seth, I'm stuck. I'm kind of like, I know that I want to change my life, but where do I start? It's kind of like, okay, cool. So let's look at your day, right? Are you sleeping for fucking like 14 hours?
Yeah.
You're sleeping for 14 hours, bro? Like what? And then, okay, so you're sleeping for 14 hours. You then go to your normal job. You're there for like 8-9 hours. And then what do you do? You know, I just kind of go home, Netflix. Maybe some of them are going to the gym. But then it's just like, hold on, like we actually break it down. And when you actually look at someone's life, like it's really obvious, like it's painfully obvious. And I think for for people, I'm really interested in your opinion on this, because I think for a lot of people, it's kind of, as you were saying before, about the ego, but they have so much of an ego that they can't humble themselves even to accept their own reality and their own actions and what they do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And another thing, just going off of something you said, is that time is a non-renewable resource, right? You don't get it back. So you have to utilize it appropriately. And people, there is actually a lot of time. You know what I mean? There's a lot of time. Once you're busy with a whole bunch of stuff, you realize how valuable time is, right? So I had this big problem of like not wanting to hand over work to people. I needed to do everything myself, right? They call it what? Founder syndrome, right? I definitely had founder syndrome because I'm a guy where everything needs to be competent. Everything needs to be done right. Right. So I had the biggest time of handing over any work to people. But you see, once I handed work over to people, I'm like, wow, I have all this time.
Yeah.
This is incredibly valuable. What am I going to do with this time? There's more time to make money now.
Yeah.
You know, so people have a lot of time that they don't know. In terms of ego, yes, a lot of time it is ego. There are some people that think they deserve things they haven't worked for, right? And you need to humble yourself and be like, okay, I'm not a millionaire. Why am I not a millionaire? Because you haven't provided $1 million worth of value in life, right? What are you doing with your life that you should get $1 million? What are you doing with your life that you should have a super hot chick? What are you doing with your life that you should have amazing people around you? Like, you don't just deserve it. You can't just sit in your room and be like, I want these things.
Manifest.
No, it's not happening.
Law of attraction, man.
You have to go out and do it. You have to go out and do it. The world is attracted to action. You want to know what the law of attraction? Do something. Okay?
I call it like the law of action now.
Yeah.
It's you know what it's like. It's everything. For me, it just compounds, right? Everything is and essentially can kind of be bottled into the analogy of you push a snowball, just a small little snowball off of the top of a mountain, little nudge, and then all of a sudden it goes a little bit faster, and now all of a sudden this snowball's turned into an unstoppable avalanche, and there's nothing anything or anyone can do to stop that initial action. And a lot of people are just scared to even crunch up the snow in the first place and then just push. It sounds kind of cliche, but I think we're on the same page, because
that's the thing. A lot of people are afraid to start, right? So you have to at least start. You have to make the first step, right? Because it's a journey and you have to make the first step. And people I'll be honest with you, there's skills I've learned that people have gone to school for like 4 years that I've learned in like 2 weeks, right? And it's simply because, okay, you can learn these skills in 2 weeks, a month, maybe, right? I made the first step. The problem is people take 5 years to make the first step.
Yep.
Right. If you make the first step, you're going to start taking actions. You're going to learn along the way, and at least something will be happening. Right?
Exactly.
So
exactly. I mean, it's like we see this certainly a lot. I mean, especially in our circles of people, is a lot of people are just sat there so scared to start, and then when they come and ask, someone like you or I, where do I start? And it's kind of just like, dude, just sit down for like 15 minutes and just say, okay, what is going to be the most valuable thing for me to do right now? Okay, so you've got like homework. Let's say that you're a younger guy. You have some homework to do. Okay, cool. How many words have you got to do? 10,000? Okay, sit down and write, 10 lines, and then you start to get in that flow, that mental flow. And this is probably a massive thing I can imagine for you when you're sat there writing or producing or mixing or whatever it might be. But you know what it's like when you're just you're just there, and it's just I don't know what it is. It's just this ethereal kind of spiritual place that you go to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the zone. It's like where you're challenged enough but still have enough skill to get it done, and it's a challenge, and then you end up in like that flow state that they call it. And when you mentioned guys coming to you and like, where do they start and with things that they want to do, I have no problem helping people. I actually genuinely enjoy helping people, right? If I feel they deserve it. But I always ask them, what have you tried to do so far? What are you doing currently? Right? If you're not doing anything, I'm not going to help you. Right? So for instance, if somebody has a business, for instance, right, and they're looking for some money, for instance, right, and they come to me like, okay, I have this business, I want some money. I'm like, okay, have you tried to like do anything with this yet?
Yeah.
Like, do you know if this is going to do anything for you? A lot of businesses you can start from next to nothing, right?
Next to nothing. It's
So
just a
I'm
hustle.
like, it's just a hustle. So I'm like, have you tried? No, I haven't tried any money. Do you? No,
Yeah.
not necessarily, right? So
It's crazy.
yeah.
Because you're 100% right, man. Because all of these people, they just sit there, and especially because you're one of the best salespeople as well that I know. Just naturally, I think you've got that about you. Certainly something that I had to sit down, I had to learn, and I had to get out of my introverted zone and everything else. But it's one of those things. It's just like, bro, okay, so you want to build a business. Have you even built a fucking website? Have you tried? Oh no, I don't know how to build a website. Okay, cool. I didn't know how to build a website. Go ahead and learn it, bro. There's so much access and information just free online. I mean, there's YouTube, there's Rumble, there's all of these other places where you can just type it on Google, and it's so easy. And the tech is so easy now. And it's when it gets to those people though that they do come to you. And they're like, yeah, man, I haven't tried anything, oh, it's difficult, this, and they start complaining, those ones, right?
Yeah.
What's your sort of position at that point? What do you want to say to them, and what would you actually say to them?
What I want to say to them is stop being lazy, but I say it much more with much more swag, right? I'll often tell them, try something and get back to me, right? What's your plan? And then let me know, right? Let me know how it goes. Okay, maybe you can tweak this, right? Because I'm not the only person I'd be like giving anything to for just like no reason is like maybe my mom, because she raised me, like I'll give her some money to help her out, right? But if you're coming to me and you haven't done anything, I'm looking to see that you do something, right? Because I want competent people around me, and I want to be involved with competent people, and I want to be involved with people who try hard and work hard like me. So that's what I tell them. Try. Don't be lazy.
It's a really good piece of advice, and people overlook it so many times, because they're like, okay, so what do I do? I don't know what I want to do. And like all of these people, they're just in their head. It's just like, okay, well, look, try and do something. Try and learn any kind of a skill. And look, worst comes to worst. Okay, cool. You try it. You don't like it. Cool. Now you're more capable now. You've got another skill. So you know what? Did you lose anything? Did you lose any time? No, you just became more capable. So you know what? It's a win-win scenario anyway. And then if you don't like it, cool. There's a billion other fucking things to try.
You mentioned something about sales, and it's funny because life is very much sales, right? You know this. So the music industry actually taught me a lot about sales. And I thought I wasn't somebody who could sell anything, right? But the music industry taught me a lot about sales, because you're selling with music, you're selling a feeling, like a feeling, a mood, a mindset, right? That's what you're selling with music. And then you also have to sell like who you are as a person, right? And people buy things based upon feelings a lot of the time, right? So you have to pinpoint what the feelings are. So I could have a conversation with a girl, for instance, and having a conversation, and I'll pick up on something she says, and I'm like, oh, that'll make a good song, right? And then that's something I can sell, right? So it's very much based upon feelings, and feelings can be useful or negative for some people, right? Some people don't feel the need to go to the gym, but you got to go to the gym whether you feel to do it or not, right? Some people don't feel the need to achieve things in life. That's fine. They're people like me are going to go do it and be successful instead. So that just came to my mind about that relationship.
It's cool, man. I love it though, because this is what the whole conversation's about. It's just to let it flow, and you're right. And a lot of people now, I think it's mainly because of YouTube. I mean, especially over in Canada. I mean, the access to YouTube, I mean, people watch hours and hours and hours of video just all of the time now. I mean, you got TikTok, you got Instagram, hypervisual, you got YouTube, which is just video, right? And then you've got all of these things, and it's just people are just watching and watching and watching and consuming content. But what they're not realizing is that they are being essentially told how to feel. It's kind of the same thing with music, right?
Yeah.
And to be told how to feel is not controlling your own emotions. Like if you need to go and watch and don't get me wrong, it's fucking amazing, some of these like videos that you see, like the motivational ones, right? Where you've got this super great speech over some epic music and you're like, fuck yeah, bro, I'm going to the gym now. I'm going to the gym twice today, screw it. And then, but it's like, hold on a second, if you need those things, then you're not in the right kind of a mindset, and that's someone else essentially selling you, and you then buying that emotion, which, you know, it can be a good thing, it can be productive, but it's not, is it going to change you, right? Because it's like the motivation or inspiration, right? The motivation is kind of temporary thing. It's like a temporary feeling, but inspiration, and actually leads to a really good question, in fact, that I really want to ask. And the inspiration is something, you know, much, much, much longer term. You know, it could be lifelong, right? Yes. And you had an experience when you were like, I think it was like 4 or something, right? Which changed your life. What was that about? What happened there, bro?
So when I was younger, for like 4 or 5 years old, I had chickenpox, right? A lot of kids had chickenpox and stuff like that. But what was happening to me was I was infected with flesh-eating bacteria at the same time, right? Ooh. So it nearly ended my life. And I remember my father, because I have an older brother that passed away, and I remember my father being in the hospital telling a doctor, like, I'm not losing another son, so you better figure this out, right? So yeah, I remember every single moment of being in the hospital, suffering. I was quarantined alone, away from all the other kids, because I was like contagious with chickenpox and stuff like that. So I was quarantined from all the other kids. Like I had to listen to them play, and I was there alone, right? That day, so I ended up beating that, of course. And that day I left the hospital was one of the happiest days of my life. And I think it's important for people to have moments that they can look at of like genuine winning and like genuine happiness, genuine good things that they can look back to empower themselves sometimes, right? So I'll be in a situation, I'll be like, well, it's not that bad, I was almost dead. You know what I mean? So that also gave me a completely different outlook on life from a very young age, because it could be gone like this, right? So from very young, I was like, well, I need to do something with my life, because it could be gone at any moment, and I'm lucky to be here. And that's just the first like kind of near-death experience I've had. I've had a couple, right? So I'm lucky, you know, and it's you got to appreciate living, and living is a gift. Living is very much a gift, and you need to utilize the gift that you've been given. There's no way that I could live on this planet, go through so many near-death experiences, and not become great. I'd be doing myself a disservice.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because you know, when it comes to, I mean, first of all, it's obviously apologies about and condolences about your older brother, but when it comes to those death or near death kind of experiences, especially as a young child, how does that mentally change your fortitude, or even just your day-to-day thoughts, like when you get out of bed?
So you need to go through hard things, especially like men. You need to go through some difficult things to fortify yourself, because life is going to be hard, right? So me going through that experience so young gave me a high level of fortification, and it makes me think when I go into the world and when I run into certain situations, I tell myself I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be just fine. So for instance, when I was in university, people used to panic about exams and like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, if I fail this and then and that.
Yeah.
I was like, it's whatever. It's cool. Like, people were like, how are you so calm about this? I'm like, I mean, it could be worse. You could have got hit by a car and like you can't write the
Yeah.
exam now. So, that's how I used to well, that's how I think, right? There's a higher level of fortitude because of the things I've been through. Even there's certain instances where I've had the ability to like I practice boxing, right? So I've had the ability to spar with some people who are like professional fighters.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people will cower away from those things. I'm like, I need to do this. I'll be fine. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'll be okay. I don't go out like this. This is not
Yeah.
how I die.
This
So
ain't it, bro.
yeah,
This
this
isn't
is
it.
not how it happens. Too fly for that. It's okay. I might get some bruises, but I'll be better for the experience.
Yeah.
And that's just how I think, man. I got fortified early on through a lot of life experiences.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, you know what I think? I think a lot of people now, Seth, they're missing like the most basic fundamental thing about life, which is, for me personally, the most fundamental thing that can change anyone's life just in a flash in an instant is just saying, okay, I'm going to look at this whole thing, this crazy thing, this 80, 90, 100 years on a spinning ball of rock around a spinning ball of plasma, just what the fuck is going on? I'm going to sit here and I'm actually going to be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe I'll wake up, have a heart attack, I've gone to sleep, especially when you've had death around you,
Mm-hmm.
a near-death experience like you and I have. Like you really become to or get to that point where all of a sudden you're waking up and saying, man, this thing is so crazy and it's so cool and I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
And it seeps into not just like your own personal relationship with yourself, but I think what I'd love to hear about as well is like, how did that change your relationships with other people, like coming into this and considering that gratitude and looking at life in such a way? How did that change your relationship with people?
I think it makes you more likable, to be honest with you. And likability is very important, right? If you're grateful for the things you've been through and you've also been through like a couple like actual hard things, meeting new people is not so daunting, right?
Yep.
Speaking to people is not so daunting, and just being likable and cool to be around. A lot of the time I try and teach people how to be cool. Like it's a very nuanced thing, but like I'm trying to teach you how to be cool, how to be nice to be around, right? And being grateful is very much part of that. And you need the comparison too, right? Which is why I said it's important for like people to work like regular jobs and stuff like that. And then on the other end, like be in a position later on where you have like way more money and way more freedom or whatever.
Yep.
You need the comparison to be grateful, right? So I've had times where I was sleeping on the floor in a cold basement, and then boom, moved to Mexico. I have my own spot, own place. I wake up to the sun every morning, right? You need the comparison. I wouldn't be as grateful for that if I was never here before.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, 100%. It's kind of just the understanding of where you are with life, because there's so much like noise, there's so much noise now, and people don't, it's very easy to get distracted by it. You've got this person saying, hey man, come here, do this. But like there should, and I think everyone has fundamentally got like a baseline. And when they're alone, they kind of revert back to that baseline. But then that can, it can come out whenever, because even if you're with people and you're living happily and gratefully, then there's nothing anyone can really do or say that's going to upset you, that's going to ruin your day. Hey, okay,
very
cool.
true.
Just, girlfriend's just dumped me. Cool. All right. On to the next one. Sorry.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Sorry, baby. You just, fine. Cool.
That is a very important point. Things bother you less. Things bother you a lot less. A lot of foolishness and crap happens to me, or has happened to me, that would just shut down a lot of people's days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, it's just part of the movie. When they write this part of the movie, it's good, it's cool, because it ends amazingly. So it's all good.
And
right.
That's a really good point as well, because a lot of people are either really they just tend to live either just in the past or they're living in the future, right? And I find that what happens if you do one or the other, or just one or the other, like if you're living in just the past, then all of a sudden you're super you're super upset and you can't get past the point, especially if you've had, loved ones died, terrible memories, traumas, which we all have, and all of these things, and you sort of carry all of that pain with you. And if you're living in the future, it's essentially the same kind of, or kinds of emotion. But if you're living in the future inside of your mind, then it becomes anxiousness.
Yeah.
But if you're just living in the present and you're grateful and you say, hey, you know what? All of these things over here in the past, thank fuck for that, because I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be this man or this woman if all of that shit didn't happen to me. If I wasn't abused as a kid, if I wasn't homeless for a little while, blah 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 blah, I wouldn't be sat here.
The way I see it is like, draw power from your past, right? So if the things that have happened to you, or good things too, right, you need to draw power from them.
Yeah.
Like I said, remind yourself of the times that you overcame things. Remind yourself of the time something great happened. Draw power from the past, but you can't live there, because you always run into those people, especially in the music biz, right? Somebody had a hit years ago and that's just what they've held on to forever, right? And there's no forward momentum. So you draw power from your past, and from the future, you have something to look forward to, right? And you can use the energy of your past to propel you there, right? You're still living in the present moment, but you're going somewhere. But some people, like you said, they completely live back here and their lives are miserable because they can't deal with it. You know what I mean? You have to alchemize all that energy and all that feelings into forward momentum. Anything you've been through can be used as fuel. That's kind of how I look at it. I look at all the times like, somebody may have doubted me or told me no for something I really wanted to happen and blah, blah, blah. I just use it as fuel, and then I flex when when I've achieved what I needed to achieve. It's
that, because and a lot of people are kind of embarrassed to flex. It's like, I wanted, for example, this watch, it's Cartier.
It's very nice.
I've wanted this watch, bro, since I was like 15 years old. I saw it once and I was just like, damn, I want that watch. I'm never going to be able to afford that watch, right? I'm just still there. I'm doing coke. I'm just doing, life is not good. Just running around, stealing shit, just nuts.
Yeah.
And I see this watch and I'm like, damn, I want that watch.
Yeah.
And a couple of months ago, I saw it, actually. I saw it I was just passing by a Rolex dealers, and I was like, oh, God. Do you know what? It's just a Wednesday. I'm just walking past, I see it.
It's just a Wednesday.
You know where it is. You know where it is. And then
just a Wednesday.
It's funny, because then afterwards, everyone's just like, yeah, but why are you going to post that on your Instagram? Why are you going to post? Because I'm flexing, man.
I'm flexing, bro. I deserve it. And y'all need to see it too.
Damn right.
You know what I'm
saying? You guys
saying?
need to also know that you could do the same fucking thing. But
absolutely.
It's kind of, there's two sides to it, right? Because a lot of flexing is just like, guys, you know what? I can't believe the stuff that I've been through and the stuff that everyone else goes through. Because at the same time as well, I have a very, very, very strong belief that it's not like what you go through, because all of us as human beings, we all have the same feelings, right? Like someone can want to just go ahead, commit suicide just because, they had a bad day, had just one bad day, and that's it. But then there's other people that, they lose their father, they lose, they've then got cancer, then their dog dies, and then they keep on going. But both of those people have the same like emotion fundamentally, right? Absolutely. And I think a lot of people just miss out on that fundamental, hey guys, look, we're all the same. Actually, we all can be the same. But fundamentally, the human experience is that the emotion. And you kind of decide, okay, good or bad. Which one do you want? Because at the end of the day, it's just choice.
Absolutely. It is a choice. That's what your life is, right? It's just a painting built upon the decisions, right? Each decision is a brushstroke, pretty much, right? And emotion's very powerful thing. because like I said before, you can alchemize it, right? People just end up utilizing their emotions in the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
So I anything I feel is fuel. Sadness,
Mm.
happiness, fear, anything is fuel.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it, because I have a goal, right? And I'm gonna hit that goal regardless of how I feel. Actually, how I feel is gonna help me get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's how I think. It's easier said than done, right? But after you do something long enough, it just becomes normal,
Yeah.
right? And that's for anything. So like for instance, last year, right? I took on a bunch of things, changing my mentality, fitness,
Yeah.
bettering my relationships, making more money. I took it all on at the same time. Is overwhelming, but eventually it just becomes normal. It just becomes who you are. It's your baseline. If I don't work out, like my day is off a bit, right?
Yeah.
So I
Kind
like
of.
now I have to work out, no, I have to do certain things in order, because it's just normal life now.
Yeah.
So if your normal becomes high caliber, you're going to continue to like level up in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as well, because a lot of the guys that you kind of just see on just a normal day-by-day basis, right? You see this cycle that they do, especially with women. With women, it's the worst cycle that just keeps on just churning and churning and churning. And what happens is, because they haven't tried to level up, and because they're not actually interesting, they're not cool, like you were saying, they don't have any swag, they don't have any class, they're not a gentleman, they don't respect themselves. And then they're like, right, okay, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna try and chat to a girl. And I'm gonna even I don't have anything. And then that first part of the cycle is them going and then trying to talk to a woman, and then they're like, damn, bro, this sucks. Like it's like walking, and then that's it, off the goddamn cliff they fall. And then they kind of fall into this deep, weird, kind of creepy, dark spot where then now it's kind of like they have these really bad kind of connotations for women, and they just hate women rather than just being like, hey, this is just another thing. For those kinds of guys that are, especially because you kill it with women. I haven't really seen many guys that do as well as you do. So what's your kind of advice for those kinds of guys that they keep on trying, but they're not really trying to do anything? They're not leveling up, and they just keep on trying with women, and they just get zero results.
As a man, you need to be capable on many fronts, right? And age also has a thing to do with it, right? The same things I did when I was 18 in terms of women is not the same things you would do at 30, right? Yeah. So like at 18, what I had going for me was that I was actually a talented artist, right? I was smart, and people could see I was dedicated and like going somewhere, right? I would do shows, people would be at the shows, I would perform incredibly well. When I'm 18, that's cool to a chick, right? When you're 40, that and you're trying to do music, it's not as useful, right? So you need to be capable. It's like, okay, the first thing that you can work on is your appearance, right? The easiest thing to start doing is to work on your fitness and your appearance, right? Get in the gym, wear good clothes that fit, right? Make sure you're well groomed on a baseline. That alone changes a lot of things for you, because people make 11 different decisions as soon as they see you. Within 7 seconds, right? They decide your socioeconomic status. They decide if you have money or not. They decide if you're intelligent. They decide your political allegiances, all of that stuff. So you want those impressions to be good things when you're going through that first interaction, right? Also, people are just kind of very much attached to the outcomes of things. It has to do with women, very much attached to the outcome. So you kind of have to separate yourself from the outcome, because our minds biologically have not been wired for the world that we're currently living in, where there's so many people, right? So in your mind, you approach a woman and you're like, oh man, holy crap, all these things are going in your head, because as a tribal people, if you messed up with a girl, she talks, and then you don't get to talk to any of the women. But we don't live in a world like that. Women are abundantly everywhere. So if you mess up with one chick, it's okay. Don't become attached to the outcome, right? Fine, whatever. She was hot, whatever. There's going to be another hot girl. Talk to her, you know, and don't be weird. Rule number one of chicks: do not be weird. Okay, it's like I don't know how to explain that. Like I don't know how to better explain that. Do not be weird.
It's like, don't creep a girl out, bro. Because the second that you creep a girl out, if you're there with your boys, you're gonna creep your boys out too. And it's like it's a whole thing, dude. Don't be weird. Be the kind of guy, because it's like the kind of creepiness that comes with just a man expecting a woman to just straight off of the bat just be like, yeah, she's gonna be with me. We're gonna, like, bro, hold up a second. You just walked into the fucking bar, G. Like, relax. You're just walking in. You haven't even spoken to her. Yeah, but what if she says no? Then she said no.
She said no, bro.
She said no. Okay. Cool. Move on, bro. Move on. There's plenty of others. Oh yeah, but then we're gonna have to move past. Why? Just you walked up to her. She said no. Then
you don't have to move bars.
chill with.
You have to move
and have a good time.
You have to move bars if you were weird. You know what I mean? If you were
have
weird.
To stay at home if you were weird. Bro.
If you were weird,
At this point, cool. If you're creepy and weird with girls, no, just stay at home, because you ain't coming out with me or Seth. I can say that much. We don't want you on the crew.
Yeah, don't be weird.
What's like a recent example of you seeing a guy be weird with a girl without any names, or just creep her out? What was like a recent example? Because we kind of intuitively understand it.
To be honest with you, it would have to be something I've seen on like the internet or YouTube or something, which I can't really recall now because I don't hang out with weirdos, right? Because I don't hang out with people that do that stuff. I hang out with people that are like relatively good with people in general, right? Not just women. And I was gonna say, you know, with that whole being attached to the outcome thing, it's people are afraid of rejection, right? And that's another reason I think that it's important at some point in your life to have a sales job, because sales will teach you about rejection. You got to talk to a lot of people will tell you no, right? You get used to, okay, somebody told me no, on to the next, right? So it's kind of the same thing with women, right? You might get rejected, you get used to it being like, all right, she said no, cool, whatever.
Close. Every no, and I always say this when, especially when I was doing corporate training for sales, I always said to all of my clients, look, every single no gets you one single step closer to a yes. If it's a no, okay, cool. There's 9 more no's that you're going to get. It's just a numbers game. At the end of everything, it's all just a numbers game, right? And it's the same with business. You know what? You start a business, and you have to be so detached from the outcome. You have to believe in the business that can work. But you know what? If after a year, a couple of years, and it's not going anywhere, there's no money being made, and you're doing what Seth was saying before, and you're coming to Seth asking for money, and you haven't actually tried anything, yeah, you know what? The outcome is in direct proportion to the effort and energy that you put into it, and the focus.
Absolutely.
Same with women, same with business, same with everything.
Absolutely. And I tell I tell a lot of guys just basically what we've been saying, that, like, you know, it's a numbers game, bro. Especially if you're using like online sources like Tinder, Hinge, whatever, right? That's 100% a numbers game. Approaching women in real life is actually, in my experience now, has become more powerful, because everyone is so used to like dating virtually, right? And like kind of setting things up virtually, that if you manage to see a girl in real life and actually speak to her, it instantly sets you apart, right? She's going to check your Instagram and stuff after or whatever and see, you know, what you're all about. But you have a little window of like being slightly impressive because of an approach in the real world. It shows a little bravery, right? Boldness, character. Women like that stuff. So
and it's classy as well, because the part of going up to a woman and speaking to her is a lot of women don't even have that kind of a relationship or have had that kind of an experience in a long time. If you're able to go up to a woman in the middle of the street or, you know, maybe at the supermarket, compliment her, just something super simple, just spark up a quick conversation. Hey, look, I really love your dress. Just your outfit is just killing it today. Anyway, super busy. Enjoy the rest of your day. And then, you know what? Next time that you go, you'll probably see her again. She'll go, oh, hey, how are you? Because the whole time that you're not there speaking to her, her brains, those cogs are going to be churning. Why didn't he ask me for my number? Why this? Why that? Why that?
Sure.
And because the women are also focused on the end result. Whereas with us, fine, we're doing exactly the same thing. Although the second that you're not that creep who's focused on the end result, all of a sudden the end result just becomes fun.
Yeah.
And fun, you know what? Let's see how this thing goes. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But I'm not going to be with someone that's, you know, just with me for fun, because that's not kind of the thing that I'm looking for. You know, if you're that type of guy, or if it is just, hey, pure fun, it's pure fun. And too many people are just worried about, oh, okay, what if this, what if she doesn't want to just be, you know, friends with benefits, for example, right? If she doesn't want it, then cool, just next,
bro. There's somebody who does, who is actually your type and whatever, right? It's all numbers. It's all good, you know, and that's, once again, it's like going back to that whole fortification, right? If you've gone through some actually hard things, talking to a girl is light work. It's light work. It doesn't matter. It's like, what, really? Like, this is simple. Somebody tried to kill you the other day. Like, you know, this is light work.
This is too easy. And what, do you know what? Here's a funny question. So do you remember the first time that, like, in public, that you walked up to a girl?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Did it fail miserably like most people, or did you win it?
No, I actually won, but she didn't take my call when I called her, but she gave me her number. So I was how old was I? Maybe 14-ish. So this would have been the first time like I actually approached a girl. Before that, like elementary,
young.
Yeah, like 14-ish. I was at the man, we used to waste a lot of time. Don't waste your time, as we've spoken about before. So I was hanging out at the subway station with my boys, right? 14 years old. And this girl comes off the train, comes upstairs, she's waiting for a bus, right? And like whenever a fine girl would pass by or whatever, the boys would be like, yo, who's gonna talk to her? No one would talk to her. I was like, I am not missing this opportunity today. I'm gonna do it. Cool. So I spoke to her. You know, she was all cool. I said, you know, I thought she was very beautiful, very pretty. I would like to, you know, either take her out sometime or I don't remember what I said, or, you know, have a good time together or whatever. And I asked her for a number and she gave it to me. Right. And it was actually her number because I called her, right? But then she texted me and told me that she had a boyfriend. So I was like, oh, okay. All right.
Well, even still, that's like a double win, because you just called a girl who's got a boyfriend who's already committed. So says something about his game. I mean, if it works, right?
And you see what that taught me as well is when you're the one guy out of like all the other people who actually approaches, she'll give you a lot of points for that because she knows everyone else is watching her. She knows, right? So that applies from when I was 14 to now, right? So yeah, that was the first time I like really approached a girl.
It's the first time is, and do you know what, it's just like anything, right? It's like you were saying, taekwondo, even karate, from like Uchni Sunshi, right? I bet that you can still remember those, like all of the way up to 10 or maybe even more. But it's, if you repeat something as in enough times, and if you're continuing to just flex that muscle again and again and again and again and again, dude, it just becomes, like you were saying before, if you're expecting high expectations from yourself and nothing else is allowed to happen that day, then it's just a thing. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
thing. We don't like necessarily even need to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
But it's repetition.
Absolutely. It's I would say that people talking to women is it's talking to people in general, right? So a lot of people have a lot of what they would call social anxiety, right? So for instance, they would be uncomfortable seeing somebody with like a cool jacket, right?
Mm.
And they would be uncomfortable with walking down the street and telling them, hey, that jacket's really cool.
Yeah.
Right. I've literally met important people like that,
Mm-hmm.
bro. I've literally met people like, hey, you look cool, man. What do you do?
Yeah.
They're like, whoa,
Well,
he's
the
talking.
fuck?
Hey, I do this and da, 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 da. They're happy to talk to you, but you need to just kind of socially warm up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And get used to saying things to people, even just little one-off things. They don't always have to turn into big conversations, but you'll notice it's like it's playing a sport. You're warming up, right? So
yeah, it's kind of like in a normal social situation, if you haven't got that warm up, like you're coming across just as a cold person, right? Like you don't know how to really be interesting, be cool. I know that we keep on saying it, but if you don't know how to speak to someone, just speaking to someone just makes you cool instantaneously, right? Because everyone loves doing one thing more than anything else. Everyone loves fucking talking about themselves. So if you can get someone just talking about themselves and compliment someone, then all of a sudden now you've just opened the floodgates, and they'll tell you pretty much anything.
And
right?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And here's the thing. When people speak about themselves to you, the more that they speak about themselves is the more they think they like you.
Yes.
Right. So
exactly
if you get people to open up and they're talking a lot, right? It does something to their brains where they're like, I like this person, you know.
Exactly.
I've got a lot of contacts through that too. You just ask people questions, be genuinely interested in people, which I actually am. I like learning about people and what makes them tick, and you know, the human mind and that kind of stuff. Be interested in people. It will do favors for you in your life.
And what would you say, just to wrap this up, because I know that you have some other plans right now, and I've got to run and take the dog out as well.
Nice.
But I mean, what would you say would be, out of absolutely everything, what would you say would be the most fundamental thing for someone who's trying to become just a better person? Because at the end of the day, that's just what it is, right? It's just becoming a better person. What would you say would be the fastest, quickest thing that someone can do to just live a happier, more fulfilled life whilst becoming a better person?
The fastest thing I would say is to be physically fit. But outside of that, there's some people who are already physically fit, right? Outside of that, I would say the circle of people around you. Change the people around you, and it will change your life. You are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with, you spend the most time with. It is very true, cliche as it may be. Change the people around you, and it should force you to better yourself if they're also bettering themselves.
Absolutely. And you and I are definitely going to have another one of these conversations, because Absolutely. I just had the alarm go off, and I'm like, shit, that was an hour. Really? Like that just passed. So we're definitely going to have to do another one of these. If anyone has any kind of specific questions that you guys want to ask, just drop them down in the comments below. And obviously, Seth, where can people find you? Because obviously people are going to want to learn how to be cool and listen to your music. So where can people go ahead and do that?
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram at Seth Dyer _ So SETHDYER_. If you type in Seth Dyer, it should be the first person to pop up. That's the best place to reach me, and the most active there. So Instagram.
Give them a follow. And ladies, try just, one by one, form an orderly queue. All right.
Yeah, in a line.
Come on, one by one. He's a good man. All right, brother. Well, look, really appreciate the time. And yeah, we'll definitely sit down and have another one of these, because this has been definitely very fun. And of course, I'm hoping really informative for anyone else that's watching this and just helpful. So Seth, really appreciate you, brother. And yeah, carry on talking and speak soon.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me on. This is a great time, and I'm looking forward to you doing more of these with more people and us doing this again. So